call this session of the Public Service Commission to order. Secretary Phillips, are there any changes to the final agenda?
There are no changes to the final agenda.
Thank you. I will first conduct a roll call of commissioners. When I call your name, please confirm that you are with us this morning. Commissioner Diane Berman.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner James Alisi.
Here.
Commissioner Tracy Edwards.
Here.
Commissioner John Howard.
Here.
Commissioner Dave Valesky.
Here.
Commissioner John Majori.
Here.
Thank you all. We'll now move to the regular agenda. Our first item for discussion is item 301, case 20-T-0617, related to the application of Sunrise Wind LLC for a certificate of environmental compatibility and public need. It'll be presented today by Administrative Law Judges Michael Clark and Erica Bergen. Judge Clark, please begin.
Good morning, Chair Christian, Commissioners. My name is Michael Clark. I was assigned to preside over this proceeding with Administrative Law Judge Erica Bergen. The order before you would approve a joint proposal filed in this case by Sunrise Wind LLC and grant Sunrise's application pursuant to Article 7 of the Public Service Law for authority to construct, operate, and maintain the Sunrise Wind New York cable project, a transmission line intended to deliver up to 924 megawatts of electricity to the New York State grid from the Sunrise Wind Farm, an offshore wind generation facility located in federal waters approximately 30 miles off the coast of Long Island. The unopposed joint proposal is signed by Sunrise, staff of the New York State Department of Public Service, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets, the New York State Department of State, the New York State Department of Transportation, and the Long Island Commercial Fishing Association, or LICFA. According to the signatory parties, the joint proposal is consistent with sound environmental, social, and economic policies of the Commission and the state, such that its approval is in the public interest. In that regard, laws applicable to this proceeding include Public Service Law Section 126 and the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, or CLCPA. The former authorizes the Commission to grant a certificate for the construction and operation of a major electric transmission facility if it determines the basis of need for the facility and the nature of the facility's probable environmental impact. The latter requires that New York achieve a 100% carbon-free electricity system by 2040 and reduce greenhouse gas emissions 85% below 1990 levels by 2050. The CLCPA also mandates that at least 70% of the state's electricity come from renewable energy sources by 2030 and calls for the development of 9,000 megawatts of offshore wind energy by 2035. The project will further New York's efforts to achieve these goals, as it will deliver up to 924 megawatts of clean, reliable wind energy from the Sunrise Wind Farm to the Long Island Power Authority's Holbrook Substation in the town of Brookhaven, Suffolk County. Project components include the Sunrise Wind export cable, an onshore transmission cable, an onshore converter station, an onshore interconnection cable, and the expansion of the Holbrook substation. The 5.2-mile export cable will be a high-voltage, 320 kilovolt direct current submarine cable bundle that will enter New York State waters 3 nautical miles from land and be routed to a point off the south coast of Fire Island, approximately 2,225 feet offshore. There, the cable will be landed via horizontal directional drilling, or HDD, and ultimately connect to the transition joint bay in the landfall work area at Smith Point County Park on Fire Island, where it will be spliced to the onshore transmission cable. That cable will extend for approximately 17 miles, crossing the Intracoastal Waterway and traveling through Long Island, primarily within an existing disturbed right-of-way to the new onshore converter station, which will transform the project's voltage from 320 kilovolts direct current to 138 kilovolts alternating current. From the converter station, electricity will be transmitted via the onshore interconnection cable to the Holbrook substation. Up to 1.1 miles long and consisting of 2 alternating current circuits, the interconnection cable will be routed entirely underground along town roads and utility-owned or controlled property. The Holbrook substation is situated on utility-owned land north of the Long Island Expressway in the town of Brookhaven. In order to accept power generated by the project, the substation will require a fence line expansion, additional electrical equipment and bus work, as well as the relocation, retermination, reconfiguration, and/or undergrounding of several existing 138 and 69 kilovolt overhead transmission circuits. Turning back to the joint proposal, the signatory parties maintain that its terms fairly and reasonably consider their potentially competing interests, are appropriately balanced to ensure protection of those interests, and produce an outcome that is within the range of results likely to arise from a commission decision in a litigated proceeding. In this regard, LICFA raised several concerns at the outset of the case, noting that its constituency of 300 commercial fishers was potentially impacted more than any other group by the submarine cable pathway and landing site. After 10 months of settlement discussions, Sunrise committed to various design changes that will significantly reduce impacts arising from the project, including those affecting benthic resources and water quality, as well as those potentially affecting the commercial fishing industry. In particular, the export cable will be installed at the landfall HDD with just a single bore rather than 3, as was proposed in the application. The joint proposal also requires substantial outreach and notice to the fishing community during project construction, as well as the submission of both a fisheries compensation plan and a fisheries monitoring plan. The compensation plan will identify a claims process for the loss of commercial fishing gear, and the monitoring plan will ensure impacts to fisheries and fishing operations are appropriately minimized. These provisions have alleviated LICFA's concerns, and there is in fact no public opposition to the project. Excuse me. On the contrary, favorable comments in the record are provided by both Suffolk County and the town of Brookhaven, the only municipalities in which the project is situated. Comments from Suffolk County include: the Sunrise Wind project will lead to the creation of much-needed infrastructure investments and many jobs that come with good living wages and benefits. Also, the opportunity for offshore wind can significantly help us combat climate change, provide quality union jobs, and ensure that our energy solutions are clean and safe for the environment. Suffolk County supports this project. Brookhaven's Commissioner of Planning, Environment, and Land Management, meanwhile, indicates that the town looks forward to continuing to work collaboratively with Sunrise as the project is permitted, constructed, and operated, and appreciates the opportunity to comment on this historic and regionally significant project. We agree with these sentiments, as well as the signatory parties' assertion that the joint proposal addresses all the statutory and regulatory criteria surrounding Sunrise's request for a certificate. The project will assist New York's efforts to achieve the energy and environmental goals set forth in the CLCPA. It will increase the amount and availability of renewable energy through the provision of up to 920 more megawatts of clean, reliable offshore wind energy, while also creating an opportunity to displace energy generated by fossil fuel-powered plants. In conclusion, the project satisfies a public need and will adversely impact the environment to the minimum extent practicable, given the state of available technology, the nature and economics of various alternatives, and all other pertinent considerations. We accordingly recommend that the joint proposal be adopted in full. Thank you. Both Judge Bergen and I are available for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Appreciate the presentation today. And I'm happy to be able to look over this item and review it today because it's notable for a couple of reasons, some of which you pointed out. That the item was unopposed, I think, probably the most significant in my mind, and that it's received such support from the town and the county in which it's located. I think those are some significant items worth repeating and amplifying, in that it shows communities are eager for these kinds of projects, and that working with the developer and the communities and local industry, we can come up with a solution that is equitable and fair for all involved. So I was very happy to see that in the order, and that over the last 10 months, we've achieved the point where we can deploy this project in a fair and equitable way. So thank you for your presentation, and now I'll move on to Commissioner Dan Berman, if you have any comments.
I have no comments.
Sorry, maybe I didn't hear you. You have no comments?
I have no comments at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Alisi.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll be supporting this for a significant number of reasons, not the least of which it is unopposed by most of the significant
I'm sorry, I can't
players.
hear. Could you speak up?
I'll start over. I am on. Okay, I am going to support this because it is unopposed by most of the significant players, departments and agencies of the state as well as local government. And I would note that after some negotiations with the Long Island Commercial Fishing Association, they're on board as well. I think it will provide solid environmental and economic benefits, including job creation, and moreover, it's in sync with the CLCPA. To me, this is another exciting giant step in our pursuit of reliable and clean energy, so I will be voting yes on it.
Thank you. Commissioner Edwards.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. I just want to commend both of you for this hard work. It's difficult to have anything that's unopposed, actually, in this day and age. But this was a tough one, and because I know that the commercial fishermen had, and rightfully so, a lot of questions and concerns on how they were going to be impacted. So the fact that all of you worked together on a joint proposal to alleviate their concerns is commendable. It really is. This is an important project and setting the tone for things to come. I'm excited for the opportunities that this is going to be able to move forward, and the job opportunities, the environmental opportunities. It speaks volumes for what's needed. And, as a resident of Long Island and a resident of Suffolk County, I am excited to be able to vote to move this forward. So I want to thank both of you and everyone that was involved in this joint proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Howard.
Thank you. I do want to echo my fellow commissioners' praise of the staff and the judge's work on this project. You really threaded the needle in a very difficult, first of its kind, and will be set precedents for future transmission projects in the offshore space going forward. That being said, I have a few questions, not necessarily about this particular project. It's regarding the finances of this entire offshore OREC. If you could indulge me, could someone remind me how the intention to pay for this transmission project, which will be bundled with the actual wind farm and then ultimately paid by by ratepayers. Could someone judge or give me how the economics work of this, and particularly and describe the load share ratio financing aspects of this project?
General Counsel Bob Rosenthal, would you mind?
Sure, and if you don't mind, I'm going to ask the ELJs that were responsible for the case, was that issue addressed? Did it come up in the record of the case?
No, it was not an issue in this case.
Okay, so those issues were not an issue in the case, Commissioner Howard?
Oh, I'm fully aware of that.
So just to further the point, it's really imperative that any final agency actions that come from the commission are based on the record of the proceeding.
Well, that being said, I do know what the answer is. And here's a very
I'm
difficult.
sorry, is he not answering the question? I would like this question answered.
So I believe the General Counsel answered the question by reiterating that the decisions we are making today are going to be based on the items that appeared in the record, and that the question Commissioner Howard asked was not something that appeared in the record. We can definitely provide additional details and information on that, and I believe we've discussed this in prior cases. Is that a discussion that we should have again, Commissioner Howard?
It's not necessary. It's not necessary. And I would like to indulge request the indulgence of my fellow commissioners and staff. Because the issue of the financing of our rec program, we don't get much opportunity to bring the issues to the public in a forum very often. And I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity to reiterate some of my ongoing concerns. And particularly what is in the record, particularly as the judge stated, particularly the town of Brookhaven's comment about the regional aspect of the benefits of this project. That being said, the benefits would appear to be, if not exclusively, almost largely to the Long Island community, both for its immediate environmental benefits and certainly its near-term economic impacts, as the judge stated. My broader concern is that that the way that we finance this portion of the project, because it's a bundled project. And again, let me reiterate, I am for the project. And really will want to again reiterate my praise for staff and the trial staff who got this done so delicately. But I just want to go on the record that while this benefit would appear to be regional in nature, that the Long Island Power Authority customers will pay roughly 13.5% of the cost of this project, while upstate customers will pay nearly 50% of the cost of this project. While I know that is not directly relevant to the case before us, I think it's hugely important, and again, I ask everyone's indulgence. I'm going to do this every time a project comes up that is based on a load share ratio financing scheme. And because at some point, I believe the broader body politic of the state of New York will understand that everybody pays, and that sometimes the biggest beneficiaries pay the least. In this case, I believe that is the case. So that, in that regard, that's my point here. And I will be voting no, not because I don't like the project, it's because this is the only opportunity that I have seen through the last several years on this commission where this issue can be dealt with. It has not been dealt with properly, and I think this issue of project financing, unfortunately, should not be in the hands exclusively of this body, but should have direct direction from the state legislature. Because if we are going to ask everyone in the state of New York to pay, that decision should be done not through a regulatory fiat, but directly through legislation. But again, I do want to praise everyone who's involved in this. I look forward to the construction of this project, and I also look forward, and I would hope in sometime in 2023 where we take a more rational approach to project financing. But with that, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Now, we'll move on to Commissioner Valesky. If you have any comments?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Judge Clark, thank you for your presentation this morning and for your summary of the Article 7 proceeding that is before us today. I would just very briefly, again, highlight, as previous speakers have, but the support of the joint proposal from both local governments involved, both Suffolk County and the town of Brookhaven, and particularly the commercial fishing industry. And Judge, you made clear in your presentation that the developer of this transmission project, Sunrise, did in fact make some design changes to its initial proposal, specifically to take into consideration those concerns of the commercial fishing industry. So appreciate the willingness to do that. Again, thank you and the entire staff for the good work that has been done on this item, and I intend to support it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Majori?
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to vote for this item. It advances our clean energy goals and reflects an inclusive and collaborative process, which is a testament to good staff work. I don't want to say that it's amazing that there is no local opposition, because to say it's amazing suggests that it's unbelievable. It is believable. Instead, I just want to say it's a noteworthy and very laudatory feature of this item, and so I just wanted to say good work, and again, I am going to vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. So I'll now bring this item to a call for a vote. My vote is in favor of the recommendation to adopt the terms of the proposal as discussed. Commissioner Berman, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Elise?
Yes.
Commissioner Edwards?
I enthusiastically vote yes. Do
Sorry,
get
I didn't
extra
catch
points
that.
for
I didn't catch that. Commissioner Howard?
No.
Commissioner Valesky?
Yes.
Commissioner Majori?
Yes.
Thank you. The item is approved and the recommendations adopted. We'll now go to the consent agenda. Do any commissioners wish to comment on or recuse from any of the items on the consent agenda? I'll begin my questioning with Commissioner Berman.
Yes, thank you. I am going to be talking about item 164 and item 372. Item 164 is the Bluebird RNG CPCN item, and item 372 is the petition of Noblehurst Farms concerning costs of interconnecting a net meter farm waste generator. The challenge and goal of New York State energy policy is to balance reliability, environmental sustainability, and the cost of energy supply to meet the needs and demands of consumers and to support the growth of our state's economy. The New York State Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act sets aggressive goals for emissions reductions, renewable energy production, and energy use reductions. Both of these projects, in my mind, present economic development opportunities in the agriculture industry as part of our clean energy transition, providing a dual benefit to two critical sectors of the economy, energy and waste. I believe there's a strong need for fuel diversity as we focus on decarbonization. We need multiple resources to play a role in our state's overall energy future as we seek to lower emissions. I emphasize that without these facilities, much of the waste would become methane through natural processes. Instead, it's being captured for our benefit in a renewable, less carbon-intensive manner. It's clear to me that farms, dairy farms, have a role to play in decarbonization, and I'm mindful that dairy farms are helping us explore what that role is and help to shape our clean energy future. There's a disconnect for me here, though, between 164 and 372. I recognize that it's not an apples to apples comparison. However, we are devoid of consistency, in my opinion. In the Bluebird matter, which we are approving, or the draft is approving, I believe that we are getting it right. We are clearly identifying that this complies with the CLCPA, and further, that projects like this are not inconsistent with the CLCPA. Staff took an extreme amount of careful analysis, reviewing all of the facts, to come to that conclusion in a way that was technically, regulatorily, and legally correct. It effectively removes barriers such as these projects as we continue to face opposition from them that they are not inconsistent with the CLCPA. Let me be clear. 164 draft order makes it very clear that Bluebird RNG is not inconsistent with the CLCPA. That, I think, is good for Bluebird, it's good for New York as a whole, and it is consistent as we go forward with the CLCPA. I believe strongly that we should make sure that folks understand that we are effectively removing those barriers to projects under the misguided assumption that it is not consistent with the CLCPA. However, I'm going to be voting no on item 372 because I believe strongly, looking at it from a holistic point of view, that we are getting it wrong. Here, the draft order seeks to deny Noblehurst's farm petition. I understand if we were looking at it in isolation, that might seem to make legal sense. However, after careful review, I cannot come to that conclusion. I think it is incumbent upon us to make sure that our state energy policy is enabling folks to work together and collaborate to find solutions to that. Why am I so passionate about this? When you look at Noblehurst Farm, what you see is a family farm that has been very focused on being a part of the solution in New York for clean energy for quite some time. In fact, the United States EPA has highlighted them as a success model. Noblehurst Farm was established in 1960 in Linwood, New York. It's the 7th generation multifamily farm with an eye for sustainability and environmental stewardship. The US EPA believes that. The family-run business includes Noblehurst Farm, 1,800 cow dairy, more than 2,500 acres of land where corn, alfalfa, and wheat are grown. It has a Craig Station Creamery, a milk processing facility. There's Noblehurst Green Energy, which produces electricity, natural upcycling, a food scrap collection business. EPA recognized them because they were producing clean energy, renewable energy by the farm's anaerobic digester, which uses manure from the farm's dairy cows, as well as food waste collected from local grocery stores, restaurants, consumer food companies, universities, and schools. The family's enduring commitment, based on what EPA is saying, to preserving the land and consistent focus on long-range planning and profitability have led them to establish innovative partnerships that the EPA embraced. They utilize food waste and generating power. Upscaling process helps include waste from seafood, beef, pork, and poultry products, fruits and vegetables, dairy and egg products, bread, wheat, rice, pasta, and coffee products, leaves, bushes, grasses, and weeds, and floral and tree trimmings. These wastes, which are produced by grocery stores, consumer food manufacturers, universities, schools, and restaurants, are collected by Noblehurst Natural Upcycling and delivered to the Noblehurst Digester. In fact, the New York State Fair benefited from their participation. The New York State Fair butter sculpture was recycled into electric energy capable of powering a house for 3 days. The 800-pound installation was taken this year to Noblehurst Farms and processed alongside other food waste in the farm's digester. They've been touted by the New York State DEC, by NYSERDA, by the Farm Bureau, by Cornell. The list goes on of folks who have been supportive and have seen Noblehurst Farm as an important part of our state's energy policy and an important part of our economic thriving. They help to alleviate food waste and produce energy for the dairy. They turn manure and food waste into new energy sources. I believe strongly that we need to support these projects from an energy incentive, looking at energy incentives and help support the continued operations on a statewide basis. I agree that we cannot just have it rest on the backs of New York State ratepayers. However, I believe strongly that we cannot continue to look at these in one-offs and isolation. It's clear to us from the amount of work that Noblehurst Farms has done, as well as other dairy farms, that they have been stewards in all of this throughout the years. In fact, Chris Noble, along with his family and neighbors who operate Noblehurst Farm, presented at a joint budget hearing and really made the case about their passion for sustainability, the steps that they have taken over the years to invest in environmentally conscious practices with the goal of improving the long-term sustainability. As I see it, they have diverse customers like Wegman Food Market, Skidmore College, and others helping in these efforts. I believe strongly that we should take the time before we move on this petition denying it to actually look at what is happening and find solutions. It should not just be left to the utility and the farm to have to fight among themselves over the issue. Instead, we should be looking at this more holistically across the board on a statewide energy policy. Over the years, I have sat here since 2013 and listened to how much we care about the agricultural community in New York. However, I don't see it. We form working groups, we form statewide task force, but ultimately, I think that we are failing if we don't lean into this. We should learn the lessons from the anaerobic digesters, which we worked with farms to help thrive. We should be seeing what else can we do as we move now into renewable natural gas and as we move now into other ways to reduce emissions. All one has to do is go to Noblehurst Farm and other farms who are trying to do the right thing and see the benefit that is there. Many state officials, myself included, have gone and have felt the passion that's there and have seen the real good hard work that can be done. So for me, I think it is incumbent upon us as we move to looking at how to monetize this issue in a way that is helpful and consistent with our climate change action and reducing emissions. I understand that the economics may not be there for generating electricity on dairy farms. Therefore, we need to look at renewable fuel goals and help to figure out a way to support, not to be a barrier, to representing cutting-edge industry, low-carbon biofuels, and looking at ways that, in fact, our farms can thrive, and then that means that New York will thrive. Therefore, I am going to be voting no on the Noblehurst Farm item as written. The draft order seeks to deny the petition. I don't think that's appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Elisi?
Yeah, I'll be supporting the entire consent agenda without comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Edwards?
I just
For
have
sec,
a comment.
Chairman Christian, Commissioner Elisi was not able to be heard by the stenographer here, so if you could repeat his comments.
Thank you for that. Commissioner Elisi, would you mind restating your position on the consent agenda, please?
I think you have to move the mic very close to you.
I will keep it very close this time. Okay, as I said, I'll be supporting the entire consent agenda without comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just have a comment. I did look at the 372 for Noblehurst Farms as well, because I wanted to make sure that we were looking at this, thoroughly. And at the end of the day, although I hear Commissioner Berman and respect her comments, it's a tariff provision. And if we give a waiver to this farm, even though they're a great farm, then what are we going to do for everybody else? So that's, I think all of the wonderful things that Commissioner Berman said about Noblehurst Farm is true. It's accurate. They're wonderful, but it's a tariff provision. And if we give them a waiver, they have to pay their interconnection costs. That's where I am. So I would love to do something for Noblehurst Farm, but it's a tariff provision. So it's I thank them for all of their hard work. I think that they are great, but we can't make an exception for them as worthy as I think that they are. So that's my only comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Edwards. Commissioner Howard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will be voting no on 372, largely in concurrence with Commissioner Berman's comments. Additionally, I'll be voting no on 374, which is part of my consistent no votes on those projects that are supported through load share ratio financing.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Valesky?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also was prepared to speak on both items 164 and 372. After hearing Commissioner Berman's comments earlier today, I'm going to just state that my wish is for the record to reflect my 100% concurrence and agreement with her presentation on both of those items. And as such, I'll be enthusiastically supporting item 164, the Bluebird petition, and I'll be voting no on item 372. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Majori?
Thank you. I'm going to explain my vote on 3 items. The first one is item 464, Heritage Estates. And I just want to note that although this is a very small rate case, we are approving a roughly 42% bill increase on this utility's 30 customers. The customers received notice and nobody submitted any public comments. There is nothing on the record challenging any of the staff analysis or any of the reasons for the rate hike, so I have no reason to vote no and will in fact vote yes. But whenever I see one of these types of cases, I'm given pause as to whether to interpret the lack of comment as consent. In any case, there's nothing in the record to suggest that there's not any alternate view, so I'm going to vote yes. The next item I'm going to comment on is 387, Barron Winds. And I'd like to state for the record that I read all the public comments regarding this case that were filed during the 21-day comment period. and believe that the order as written is responsive to those comments that pertain to the compliance filings that are the subject matter of this order. I recognize that there were additional comments that the order does not directly address, other than to acknowledge that some comments do not pertain to the matter before us today. I have noticed since joining the commission, reading these comments and listening in on some public statement hearings for similar cases, that there is sometimes confusion about what is actually at question. I sympathize and understand the desire to take the opportunity to speak on topics beyond the scope of the narrow issue at hand. But the question before us is actually narrow, and I think the relevant questions raised have been adequately answered, so I'm going to vote yes on this. Finally, I'm going to comment on 164 of Bluebird Renewable. I was originally going to make more extensive comments on this case, but I think I could be brief. I read the public comments on this case with great interest, particularly the back and forth between the Sierra Club and the petitioner. Many issues were raised during this exchange, and I believe this order addresses those issues. At the most abstract level, the central question of this debate was whether or not this project increases or decreases the total amount of greenhouse gas produced in New York State. The points raised by the Sierra Club are far from frivolous, and I would go further to say that they are largely quite thoughtful. The order explains that the staff analysis, the order explains that the staff analysis quite well, and I'm persuaded that at the end of the day, this project will reduce greenhouse gases in New York State. I do believe that the question is germane to whether or not to vote yes or no on this item, and I would hope that if the analysis showed the opposite result, that this order would not be before us at all. For this reason, I'm going to vote yes. I thought about iterating some of the key questions raised by the public comments, but I don't think I could do a better job than what's already in the order, and I won't take the time to simply read the order. I do want to address one other point raised by the Sierra Club, almost in passing, that the Commission has endorsed a role for RNG in decarbonizing the gas system. I don't think we have. Here I will quote from the order. RNG may become a viable and necessary resource in some contexts as New York State transitions from fossil fuels. This is an equivocal statement that does not supersede whatever will emerge from the state's energy plan. To oversimplify, until such time as we as a state have a more definitive policy regarding RNG, and we will look at these cases on an individual basis. This individual basis, I'm going to vote yes, as I will with the rest of the consent calendar. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. So I'll do a call for a vote on the consent agenda. My vote is in favor of the recommendations in the consent agenda. Commissioner Berman, how do you vote?
I vote yes, except 372 is a no.
So just to confirm, item 372, you have a no vote. Thank you.
Correct.
Thank you. Commissioner Alisi, how do you vote?
I vote yes on all items.
Commissioner Edwards?
I vote yes on all items.
Commissioner Howard?
I'm yes on all items except item 372 and 374, where I am a no.
Thank you. Commissioner Valesky?
I vote yes on all items with the exception of item 372, on which I'll be voting no.
Thank you. And Commissioner Majori?
I vote yes on all items.
Thank you. Okay. The items are approved and the recommendations are adopted. So before we conclude today, I'd like to address one final matter. I'd like to recognize the departure of a very valued member of the department, someone who had a hand in many of the orders that have come before us over the years, particularly a few that came before us today, Mr. Warren Myers. For the entirety of his career as a public service, Warren has served at the Department of Public Service. Beginning as an associate economist in 1989, he's worked his way up through the ranks before retiring yesterday as a director. Warren is passionate, outspoken, and a staunch supporter of the agency and our mission. And his contributions to our efforts is something that's impossible to quantify. And I know I speak for many of us when I say his absence will be felt by all of us for a long time to come, and with the sister agencies with whom we collaborate. It's my hope that he can find as much joy in his retirement as he did when working with us. And with that, open the floor to other commissioners who may have comments. I'll start with Commissioner Berman, if you have anything you'd like to say about Warren.
Thank you. I'm truly sad, really sad, that Warren is retiring. Warren and I have had our issues over the years, and one very public one, ironically, at a session. I feel for me that we worked through that in a way that allowed us to truly see each other and respect each other. I gained a deep respect and admiration for him, and I grew substantively as a result of our finding a way to talk to each other. Gonna miss him personally and professionally. It will be hard to fill his shoes, and I wish him well in his next venture. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Berman. Commissioner Elise?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Really a sad day for the department. That's my view. I always enjoyed listening to and working with him, and I sent him a message the other day, and the message that I will say right now is pretty much what I said in an email to him, which is that, in my view, he is the bedrock of the department's intelligence and professionalism. I found him to be enlightening, very enlightening, sometimes in an entertaining way. Always willing to stare you down, which, when he was right, which usually was 100% of the time. So I think the department will miss him, and I personally will miss him. I wish him all the best.
Thank you. Commissioner Edwards?
Yeah, I just wish that Warren was here today. So it's very telling and speaks to Warren, the fact that yesterday was his last day and not today. You know, Warren just calls balls and strikes as he sees them. I have a lot of respect for him. He's just very plain language, said what he wanted to say, advocated for his positions, and was true to his role and his advocacy and his skill and his craft. I cannot speak enough about Warren, and I just am excited for him and his future, and I just find it a hoot that he didn't have today as his last day. I think it's great. Good for him. He's out of here.
Thank you. Commissioner Howard?
During my time here on the commission, and particularly that time that I was chair, there are a few individuals that, as Commissioner Lisi made mention to, are bedrocks, and Warren is the rock. After a relatively contentious period over a relatively contentious issue, I shared with Warren, I gave him a picture of Diogenes. For those that don't know who Diogenes was, he was the man who searched the world for the one honest man. Well, Warren, we have one honest man, and he's you. We'll miss you, buddy.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Valesky?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just state publicly what I shared with Warren privately, which is thank you, Warren. In my relatively short time here, I've learned a tremendous amount from you and have always appreciated and will certainly miss the candor with which you expressed your opinion, which was always based in sound and thorough research. So thank you again, Warren Myers. You will be missed. Job well done.
Thank you. And Commissioner Majora?
I didn't know Warren before I joined the commission, which in retrospect to me is somewhat surprising and a little bit embarrassing because because I've been in state government for 30 years, and since I've been here, I've come to appreciate that the work that Warren has been doing for his entire career is not only extremely important, but has made people's lives better in the state of New York. And, in private conversations, I often say that I've been continually impressed by the good staff work that I see here at the commission. And when I say that, I often have Warren in mind. The one other thing I'll say is to paraphrase something that I wrote in a little card, because I think it was funny, but also true. He and I had discussions about what constitutes a benefit. And what I think there's no discussion about is the work that he's been doing has been a benefit to the state of New York. So I'm sorry that we're not going to be able to work together longer, but I want to join everybody else in congratulating you on a career well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. So I'd like to just ask everyone to join me in a round of applause for Warren. Okay. Madam Secretary, is there anything further to come before us today?
There is nothing further.
Excellent. Thank you. And with that, I adjourn today's meeting. Thank you, everyone.